When Maya awoke the next morning in the corolla of a blue Canterbury bell, she heard a fine, faint rustling in the air and felt her blossom bed quiver as from a tiny, furtive tap-tapping. Through the open corolla came a damp whiff of grass and earth, and the air was quite chill. In some apprehension, she took a little pollen from the yellow stamens, scrupulously performed her toilet, then warily picked her steps, ventured to the outer edge of the drooping blossom. A fine, cool rain was coming down with a light plash, covering everything all round with millions of bright silver pearls, which clung to the leaves and flowers, rolled down the green paths of the blades of grass, and refreshed the brown soil. What a change in the world! It was the first time in the child bee's young life that she had seen rain. It filled her with wonder, it delighted her. Yet she was a little troubled. She remembered Cassandra's warning never to fly abroad in the rain. It must be difficult, she realized, to move your wings when the drops beat them down. And the cold really hurt, and she missed the quiet golden sunshine that gladdened the earth and made it a place free from all care. It seemed to be very early still. The animal life in the grass was just beginning. From the concealment of her lofty bluebell, Maya commanded a splendid view of the social life coming awake beneath. Watching it, she forgot, for the moment, her anxiety and mounting homesickness. It was too amusing for anything to be safe in a hiding place high up and look down on the doings of the grass dwellers below. Slowly, however, her thoughts went back to the home she had left, to the bee state, and to the protection of its close solidarity. There, on this rainy day, the bees would be sitting together, glad of the day of rest, doing a little construction here and there on the cells, or feeding the larvae. Yet, on the whole, the hive was very quiet and Sunday-like when it rained. Only sometimes messengers would fly out to see how the weather was, and from what quarter the wind was blowing. The queen would go about her kingdom from story to story, testing things, bestowing a word of praise or blame, laying an egg here and there, and bringing happiness with her royal presence wherever she went. She might pat one of the younger bees on the head to show her approval of what it had already done, or she might ask it about its new experiences. How delighted a bee would be to catch a glance or receive a gracious word from the queen. Oh, thought Maya, how happy it made you to be able to count yourself one in a community like that, to feel that everybody respected you, and you had the powerful protection of the state. Here, out in the world, lonely and exposed, she ran great risks of her life. She was cold, too, and supposing the rain were to keep up, what would she do? How would she find something to eat? There was scarcely any honey juice in the Canterbury bell, and the pollen would soon give out. For the first time Maya realized how necessary the sunshine is for a life of vagabondage. Hardly anyone would set out on adventure, she thought, if it weren't for the sunshine. The very recollection of it was cheering, and she glowed with secret pride that she had had the daring to start life on her own hook. The number of things she had already seen and experienced, more, ever so much more, than the other bees were likely to know in a whole lifetime. Experience was the most precious thing in life, worth any sacrifice, she thought. A troop of migrating ants were passing by and singing as they marched through the cool forest of grass. They seemed to be in a hurry. Their crisp morning song, in rhythm with their march, touched the little bee's heart with melancholy. Few our days on earth shall be, fast the moments flit. First-class robbers such as we do not care a bit. They were extraordinarily well armed and looked saucy, bold, and dangerous. The song died away under the leaves of the coltsfoot, but some mischief seemed to have been done there. A rough, hoarse voice sounded, and the small leaves of a young dandelion were energetically thrust aside. Maya saw a corpulent blue beetle push its way out. It looked like a half-sphere of dark metal shimmering with lights of blue and green and occasional black. It may have been 2 or even 3 times her size. Its hard sheath looked as though nothing could destroy it, and its deep voice positively frightened her. The song of the soldiers apparently had roused him out of sleep. He was cross. His hair was still rumpled, and he rubbed the sleep out of his cunning little blue eyes. "Make way! I'm coming! Make way!" He seemed to think that people would step aside at the mere announcement of his approach. "Thank the Lord I'm not in his way," thought Maya, feeling very safe in her high, swaying nook of concealment. Nevertheless, her heart went pit-a-pat, and she withdrew a little deeper into the flower bell. The beetle moved with a clumsy lurch through the wet grass, presenting a not exactly elegant appearance. Directly under Maya's blossom was a withered leaf. Here he stopped, shoved the leaf aside, and made a step backward. Maya saw a hole in the ground. "Well," she thought, all agog with curiosity, "the things there are in the world! I never thought of such a thing. Life's not long enough for all there is to see." She kept very quiet. The only sound was the soft pelting of the rain. Then she heard the beetle calling down the hole. "If you want to go hunting with me, you'll have to make up your mind to get right up. It's already bright daylight." He was feeling so very superior for having waked up first that it was hard for him to be pleasant. A few minutes passed before the answer came. Then Maya heard a thin, chirping voice rise out of the hole. "For goodness sake, do close the door up there. It's raining in." The beetle obeyed. He stood in an expectant attitude, his head cocked a little to one side, and squinted through the crack. "Please hurry," he grumbled. Maya was tense with eagerness to see what sort of a creature would come out of the hole. She crept so far out on the edge of the blossom that a drop of rain fell on her shoulder and gave her a start. She wiped herself dry. Below her the withered leaf heaved. A brown insect crept out slowly. Maya thought it was the queerest specimen she had ever seen. It had a plump body, set on extremely thin, slow-moving legs, and a fearfully thick head, with little upright feelers. It looked flustered. "Good morning, Effie dear." The beetle went slim with politeness. He was all politeness, and his body seemed really slim. "How did you sleep? How did you sleep, my precious, my all?" Effie took his hand rather stonily. "It can't be, Bobby," she said. "I can't go with you. We're creating too much talk." Bobby looked quite alarmed. I don't understand," he stammered. "I don't understand. Is our new-found happiness to be wrecked by such nonsense? Effie, think the thing over. What do you care what people say? You have your hole, you can creep into it whenever you like, and if you go down far enough, you won't hear a syllable." Effie smiled a sad, superior smile. "Bobby, you don't understand. I have my own views in the matter. Besides, there's something else. You have been exceedingly indelicate. You took advantage of my ignorance. You let me think you were a rose beetle, and yesterday the snail told me you were a tumblebug. A considerable difference. He saw you engaged in, well, doing something I don't care to mention. I'm sure you will now admit that I must take back my word." Bobby was stunned. When he recovered from the shock, he burst out angrily. "No, I don't understand. I can't understand. I want to be loved for myself and not for my business." "If only it weren't dung," said Effie offishly. "Anything but dung, and I shouldn't be so particular. And please remember, I'm a young widow who lost her husband only 3 days ago under the most tragic circumstances. He was gobbled up by the shrew mouse. And it isn't proper for me to be gadding about. A young widow should lead a life of complete retirement. So, good-bye." Pop into her hole went Effie, as though a puff of wind had blown her away. Maya would never have thought it possible that anyone could dive into the ground as fast as that. Effie was gone, and Bobbie stared in blank bewilderment.